Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Brianna and I make all kinds of videos related to vegan baking. I'm a vegan baker and I'm also the owner of a custom cake business in Toronto called Brie Sweets. In today's video, I'll be veganizing a popular recipe that I've seen all over the internet. It's called Coffee Cake by Claire Saffitz and it's from her cookbook, Dessert Person. I was recently gifted this cookbook and I want to try and make recipes from here and veganize them. Traditionally, they are not vegan. They use ingredients like eggs, butter, milk, cream. So I want to make recipes from here and veganize them and see if they're just as good as the real version. The recipe is going to be coffee cake. It looks really good. It has 2 layers of cake and it has a coffee ribbon in there, and it also has a coffee crumb topping. So this will actually be the very first coffee cake that I have ever made. This one has a lot of coffee. It has instant coffee. It has actual brewed coffee in there. So hopefully it's gonna be really good and have a really nice strong coffee flavor. I absolutely love coffee. I'm actually drinking some right now. I'm really hoping that this recipe is gonna turn out veganized. So if you don't know Claire Saffitz, she is a pastry chef and she's one of my absolute favorite pastry chefs. I love especially her videos on YouTube called Dessert Person, where she makes different recipes from her cookbook and she goes really in detail on how to make them. I love her methods. She makes it as easy as possible, explains it really well, and she makes it so that any home baker can try out her recipes. So before we jump into how to make this coffee cake, be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed and subscribe for more videos like this. All right, let's get started and make this coffee cake. So before we get started, I'm just going to mention that I'll be cutting this recipe in half, as the original recipe serves about 15 to 20, which is quite a lot. So instead of a large 9 by 13 inch pan, I'm using a 9 by 9 inch square pan. The first thing you're going to want to do is line your pan with parchment, set it aside, and preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So the first thing we're going to prepare in a small bowl is the coffee ribbon. So we're going to add in 1.5 tablespoons of light brown sugar, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and half a tablespoon of instant coffee granules. And we're gonna mix that all together. So once that's all combined, you're gonna set it aside. So next we're gonna prepare the coffee crumb topping. We're gonna put a half a cup plus 1/8 cup of all-purpose flour in a bowl, 1/4 cup brown sugar, 1 teaspoon instant coffee granules, 1/4 teaspoon cardamom, and 1/8 teaspoon salt. We're gonna mix that all together. Once that's combined, we're gonna add half a stick of butter cubed. So instead of actual butter, I'm gonna be using these Earth Balance vegan cooking and baking sticks. So I cut it in cubes and we're gonna be mixing it in with our hands. So you'll know it's done when it looks like this, when you can kind of squeeze it in between your hands and it holds up. We're gonna set it aside and we're gonna make the actual cake. For the dry ingredients, we're going to combine 1 3/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1 1/4 teaspoons baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon salt, and 1/4 teaspoon baking soda. We're gonna whisk that all together and set it aside. So the next part of the cake is the wet ingredients, which calls for sour cream. So the substitute I'll be using is this Toffuti Sour Supreme sour cream substitute. In another bowl, we're gonna mix the wet ingredients. So we're gonna add in 1/3 cup sour cream, 1/4 cup brewed coffee, half a tablespoon instant coffee, and 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. And we're gonna whisk that all together until everything is combined. So in a stand mixer with a paddle attachment, we're gonna add 6 tablespoons butter. Again, I'm using the vegan Earth Balance butter, 1/8 cup olive oil. You can use any neutral oil, but I'm using olive oil. We're gonna add half a cup of granulated sugar plus a little over 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And we're gonna mix it until all the ingredients are combined, and we're gonna go ahead and cream it for about 5 minutes. You're gonna stop the mixer, scraping down the sides occasionally. We just want to mix it until it's very light and fluffy in color. The recipe calls for 2 eggs to be mixed in. So instead of eggs, I'm using flax eggs. A flax egg is about 1 tablespoon flaxseed and 3 tablespoons water mixed together. So in here is 2 tablespoons ground flax and 6 tablespoons water. So I'm gonna add this in and we're gonna mix it one last time before adding the dry ingredients. Once that's mixed in, we're gonna add in the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients. Then half of the liquid ingredients. Then another third of the flour. Then the rest of the liquid ingredients. Then finally, the last addition of the flour. We don't want to overmix it, so once the rest of the flour is incorporated, we are done. So to assemble the cake, we're going to add half of the batter into the pan. And we're going to spread it out evenly, making sure to get all the way to the corners and in all the sides. Then we're going to sprinkle the coffee ribbon all over the cake. Then we're going to put the second half of the batter on top of the cake. So we're just going to spread it out really carefully. Now we sprinkle the coffee crumb all over the top. Alright, now we're ready to bake it. So the original recipe says to put it in for 40 to 45 minutes. I'm going to do about 25-30 and put a toothpick in, test it to see if it's done, since this is a much smaller recipe. So I'm going to go bake it. Wish me luck that it turns out good, and I will return when it's done. So this coffee cake is all done. I am going to cut it up into 9 squares, and we're going to do a taste test. I'm so excited. It's time for the taste test. This is what it looks like. You can see the coffee ribbon here in the middle. It's nice and warm, it's fresh from the oven. Let's try it. So it doesn't actually have such a strong coffee flavor. It's very mild in my opinion. I thought it would be a lot more coffee forward since there was brewed coffee and instant coffee granules and like 3 of the steps for the recipe. It's very cardamom heavy. The cardamom in the crumble on top actually kind of overpowers everything else. I do feel like it definitely needs more coffee flavor, but it's actually very moist. That's something I was kind of worried about because of the substitution with the flax egg instead of the real eggs. But overall, I would probably rate this a 6 or a 7 out of 10. The question you've all been waiting for, can you veganize it? Will it work? Yes, yes it will. It actually turned out really well for replacing the eggs and the sour cream and the butter. Overall, it was pretty good, and it was a pretty good experience baking my first recipe from Claire's cookbook, Dessert Person. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get notified every time I post. Also, let me know what kind of videos you want to see from me. Do you want to see more baking videos? Do you want to see videos about my experience with a small custom cake business in Toronto? What do you want to see? Let me know. If you want to check out my business, it'll be linked below. It's called Brie Sweets. Alright guys, bye for now.